Let's call it to order.
3:05.
7:05. Pretty good. All right. We're just talking about additions and corrections to the agenda. We left, it looks like we left some stuff off the policy section of the agenda. Last month, we warned policies A1, B1 through B7, and C1 through C7 to be adopted tonight. But that didn't get on the agenda, although it's in the minutes and we warned it last month. And then we're supposed to look over to be warned tonight, C8, C9, C10, D3, and D4, which also didn't get on the agenda. And then there's a recommendation to review. Then we would say that we were going to look at those 5 more policies at the next meeting.
Right.
And we've got some overlap with D3 and D4, but we can tonight say at least D6, E1, and F1, and then if you know of any others, we could probably add them, because that's 2 months out in the cycle of policies.
Right. Cheers.
Do you have the minutes from the last time that lists all this?
Yes.
Okay.
Agenda. Joe, is that a copy of the agenda?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and on the
Oh,
22nd,
that's
she
one. I will
sent us
share.
all of these C8, 9, 10, D3, and D4, so not matching. what
Right,
she
that
said.
matches what we were supposed to look at
Right.
and is supposed to actually be warned tonight, but then,
Yeah.
you know, we started looking at the agenda when we sat down, it's like, oops.
See if we can get
But we'll just correct it and carry on.
Yep.
Are there any other additions or corrections to the agenda, folks? Okay. A little music to convene by. Thank you. So, members of the public, do you have anything you brought to, specifically, or are you just nothing better to do on a Monday night? Okay. All righty. Does anybody have any correspondence addressed to the board? Nope. All righty. I guess we need to, last month we had a vote actually to create a letter to the WCEA talking about, that we would like to we must engage the negotiating bargaining unit. Apparently, we also have to recognize the WCEA, which is a slightly different motion that we're not sure we made entirely correctly. So, we're not doing anything differently than we did last time. We're just actually, recognizing the WCEA. I have a draft of the letter that, if we add to the motion tonight, that we recognize the WCEA and authorize me as chair to send this letter, as required by statute. We'll get the letter out tomorrow.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
Second?
Any discussion on that motion? All right. Hearing none, all in favor of, recognizing the WCEA and, again, authorizing me to sign a letter as required by statute to the WCEA, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Hey, Joe,
Yeah,
before we move on,
sure.
did we make the addition or correction to the agenda already on the policies, or are we gonna do that as we?
Do we have to make a motion to do that, or do we just sort of
No,
agree?
So number 2 is additions or corrections to the
Right,
agenda?
yeah.
So, no, when we get
No,
there.
we did. We added, now that that we'll adopt policies A1, B1 through B7, and,
Oh, you already said, okay.
yeah,
Got it. Okay.
and C1 through C7, and then we'll warn C8, C9, C10, D3, D4. And if Ken comes up with a couple
C8,
more for,
C9, C10.
I guess you gotta give me those, again, those lists of policies.
yep, when we get to 9, we will.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the administrative reports section. Since Bill's not here tonight, we don't really have an administrative report from Bill. I do know that he has reached out to the lawyer, and that is entirely possible to change the date that we would take over running of the schools. We'd need a vote of the towns. Each town vote would be tallied separately, but it would be the commingled total that decided whether or not we were effective a year early. Property would still transfer in 2019. And I don't know if that includes assets as well, but we would be, definitely property. But I didn't have a chance to clarify that and find out whether that included like, accounts receivable, contracts, things like that.
Are we making that decision tonight?
No.
Okay.
No, we had asked Bill at the last meeting to see what was possible and if it, how much heartburn it was and, whether we could pull it off or not. At some point, we probably have to decide if that's something we really want to do. Perhaps when we work with the VSBA consultant through the month of October, we can decide, if we could be ready for that, and then we would have to go to the boards, do some public outreach, get a vote. They were suggesting a vote before the end of the year, but the timetable on that's kind of difficult. But you look at it, if we push the vote into next year, we would be taking over running the schools with 4 months' notice. So timetable gets interesting on that, but it is a possibility for us if we want to move forward with it.
So you want to discuss that later, the possibility of it later at another time?
Well, yeah, we need to decide if we're ready to do it and if it's a desirable thing for us. I know a lot of this got driven by the fact that, the Leland and Gray Board has difficulty filling positions and having a quorum. In the last 4 meetings, I think we've had 1 where there was a quorum. We have open seats that, open seat in Newfane, open seat in Brookline, and we have a board member who's done at the end of this year who is leaving and not running for re-election, and it would be a 1-year term. So we're anticipating it's going to be more and more difficult to get a quorum and actually do business on that board. So
I have a question. Does anybody have an idea of what it is that we need to accomplish before we take over? Does anybody have, even a loose idea of what are the things that we need to accomplish so that we know that we can do that? And I'm asking that because I have a concern. I don't have a problem with taking over a year early in and of itself. That's not a problem to me. But what worries me a little bit is the idea of doing some new things with this new board. And that's what we said we were going to do. This is an opportunity to do some new things. But if taking over early is going to be a crunch and the default position is to do things like we've always done it, that worries me. That's my concern.
I agree.
Well, I think that's a very valid concern, but I think that if we were to take things over a year early, probably that first year would be very much status quo. We're not developing the budgets for the year that we would be taking over. So we would have a very difficult time making wholesale changes or doing a whole lot new, but it would put us in control of development of the budget for the following year when we do want to take over. And we have that year where things run sort of the way they have with a budget that's been put in place by another board and things where we can go do that new things. True.
I'm afraid it may distract us, as much as, or as difficult as it is to not have a quorum at a meeting. I'm afraid that getting involved in the daily operation of the school a year early may distract us from our real mission, which would be redesigning education for this district. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of options that need to be explored as far as what we're going to offer for education, whether we're going to restructure, whether we're going to keep the same number of students and the same number of buildings, and what programs are going to be. I mean, we've got a lot of work that is not daily operations, and that extra year of not worrying about operations may let us make better decisions.
Absolutely. We
And the
only are
farther
looking
you
at
go
this.
down the road with the new governing, the harder it is to change it.
Oh, this is
Once
only
you
an
get in
inquiry.
the way-
This
Pardon?
is only ask the question.
Yeah,
We're going to
well-
ask a lot of questions as we develop this, and your question about what do we need to do before we take over something like that?
Yeah.
We're responsible for the answer to that question.
Yeah.
That's what we have to figure out. starting with the VSBA consultant in October, I think we're gonna have some really intense time trying to figure out exactly what that does look like and what direction we go. And, really begin that work of what Drew was saying, reimagining education in our new larger district.
Right. It isn't just working out the budget.
Oh, no, there's a lot more than that.
Is, are we able to let the consultant know ahead of time that the question is out there and that we would like guidance on what it is we actually want to do? Like the task list of what needs to be done and reimagining the education in this district? Like, is there consultation with the consultant about what we want to accomplish when we meet with him? And can we do that prior to meeting with him the first time?
They have an idea of, they know in general terms what we want to do. They're going to ask us a lot of questions. Okay, this is what you say you want to do. What exactly does that mean? How does that look? What is that? They're
Right,
not going to give us a plan.
No, I understand that, but I would,
They know what we're looking to do.
as long as they are, the person who's in contact with them is letting them know where we're at right now and what kind of conversations and questions are on the table, just so they're prepared for where we are at, would be helpful. And is that Bill that's having those, are you in contact with them, or is
I
Bill?
am, Bill is.
Okay.
I'm not sure who else is. I suspect Emily may be.
Okay.
Just because she's on the VSBA board as a past president, so
Okay.
she would be working with them on other things that may come up.
It bothers me just a little bit to let expediency push us into something that we may not have time to develop. That's maybe a short way of saying.
Okay.
Rushing always leads to being wary.
Well, again, that was just one question that we had asked Bill to look at, and I happen to know the rest of the answers there. In terms of, anything else on that? Yeah?
And this might have been answered last month, and I apologize to the board for asking a question you might have spent time on, but besides filling seats, what was the other positive reason that we wanted to hurry?
I don't understand that question.
You said that
Move
you
it
wanted
up
to
a
do it a year early because we were having a hard time filling the smaller boards were having a hard time finding people to fill their seats. What was the other benefit to taking over a year early?
Well, like I said, Leland and Gray has had a quorum 1 meeting out of 4.
So besides that, is there any other state
Without a
tax
quorum, the board
benefit
can't.
or?
No, there's no.
Okay, there's no other benefit.
No,
Okay.
it's simply the school can't run. Leland and Gray can't approve pay. We can't approve bills and pay orders without a quorum. We can't authorize the audit without a quorum.
Yeah.
We can't do the general day-to-day board business of running a school. It can't be done. It sits and waits until, and we have procedures in place to get things paid, bills paid, but, things that should be happening aren't.
Okay. No, appreciate
And we don't, our Leland and Gray board has those difficulties. I don't know if any of the other boards have difficulties. Doesn't Newbrook have some vacancies or some missing folks?
Nope.
No? Okay.
We're
Okay.
we got a stacked deck.
Okay, good. I don't know how the other boards are doing, but I know it's definitely a problem.
Well, we're talking about approximately 50% of our students aren't getting their day-to-day stuff done at the board level.
Yeah.
If you guys don't have a quorum. in
Yeah,
Leland and Gray.
exactly. So that was one of the driving forces behind it, and, it was just something to look at.
And when you get a quorum, what you gotta do, go over 3 months of pay orders?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, think about it,
Yeah,
that's.
oh, yeah.
I know, I was a board of one for like 8 months, and let me tell you, mister, when you show up at a meeting and you're the only one there, nothing gets done. No matter how hard you try.
And you're gonna be on camera too. All right, so that's all I know from Bill's perspective in terms of what we had asked him to look at. And I don't think there's anything else we've asked him to come and report back on. In terms of old business, the VSBA consultant, last time we talked about October 23rd and October 30th, as good nights. I believe those are still good. I think they're looking at 6 to 9. And we will probably have by the end of this month, beginning of October, some sort of rough agenda of how those 2 nights are gonna work and what the program's gonna be like. And that'll give you a chance to then give them feedback on what else we might wanna see, something different, ask clarifying questions, things like that. And, that'll come to everybody and, we can all interact with the VSBA guy, or person, I should say, I don't know the. Any questions on that? Anything? No? So the Building and Grounds Committee actually met, I know. Drew, you wanna talk about what happened at that?
Sure. We had a brief meeting last week. The discussion was mainly around the physical plant here at Leland and Gray, because we did have the principal present to discuss that with us. And the majority of the conversation was around an evaluation that the high school is having done on its physical plant. And the committee would like to recommend that we ask all school districts to do the same, so that as a board and as a committee, we can understand where we're at with our new our buildings, so that we can better put our budget and our capital plan together. So the cost of Leland and Gray was about $7,500.
Yeah.
So we would expect a smaller cost for each of the other school districts, but the committee's recommendation was that we ask those school districts to have the same assessment done, so that we can have an outside opinion as to what we need for infrastructure.
The $1,700 was what?
75.
7,500 for
It was a,
repairs and
no,
Actually,
it's
an engineering audit of the physical.
engineering audit, sorry, okay.
Because we're gonna have to put together, as part of this new district, a stewardship plan for all 4 buildings that we'll own, as well as a capital plan, and this would be a step in that direction.
Okay.
So, if the board chooses to follow the committee's recommendation, we would just ask Bill to then work with the other boards to get them to move forward with the request from the West River Education District to engage this engineering firm to perform this audit in their building. And that would, like Drew said, that would give us a good idea. I know at Leland and Gray, they're planning on, literally a couple weeks worth of work. They're walking through the entire building, measuring. And the nice thing about this is, in addition to identifying all your issues, they're gonna give you rough cost estimates. They're not contractors or anything of that nature, but they're gonna give you a rough cost estimate, like, here's your problem and here's about what it's gonna cost to fix it. And also, some sense of urgency, like, you should fix this right now, versus you need to plan for this in the next 5 to 10 years or whatever. So it should be a pretty useful document for us as we go forward, trying to get our arms around maintaining all those buildings.
The cost for that, is that something that can come or should come out of the money we have been given for the transition, or is that something that we're going to ask each school district to pay for out of pocket? I mean, I don't remember exactly how much we have in that pool of money for the transition.
We have about 50,000.
Okay.
We have about $50,000 is my understanding, and we need to, there's legal fees and
Right.
quite a bit of things we need to do. I guess my thought was that I would certainly ask, it's beneficial to the board, it's beneficial to the schools, see what they have for money. If anybody squawks, we can offer to help out. I mean, I know Leland and Gray is paying for theirs out of their budget. Because in the course of normal business, we're addressing the physical plant of this building, so we're doing that. And since it came to light to us, it's like, boy, that'd be nice to have for everything. So if a district doesn't, just can't figure out a way to get it done, we can talk about how that works, but I guess at this point, I'd say just, could you please find a way to do this?
Because I come from a poor town, and I'd rather have this board pay for it than I do.
It's all the same pocket, really, when you look at it. But, that, there's no set in stone way that it has to happen.
Right. We really do need this information before we can
Oh, yeah.
make any reasonable recommendations to budget numbers for capital improvements, budget numbers for repairs, or even as far as what the student body in each building looks like. Until we know what we have, we really can't make an assessment as to what we need. So I think this is really, really important.
Well, I'm sure some schools already know that they do need certain things in the next couple of years.
When was the last time Newbrook did that? Do you know?
I think we're pretty good on everything except for new windows.
But you've had a
Oh, we-
evaluation soon.
Well,
We
we've
evaluate
had
internal
every
review.
kind of engineer in our building.
Yeah, I think there's also value, go ahead.
And this is, it's connected, but it's a little bit out of the pocket. When we're using numbers like we think we have this or that, it would seem very beneficial to me just to show the fiscal accountability of the new board and to start to put into practice if we kind of had a little bit of a more accurate treasurer's report to know what we actually have, even though it's only pennies compared to what we'll be managing in a year or two, it would be very helpful to have a specific in and out of what we've got left of our grant. I think it would be, just show that we're being fiscally accountable and give us a sound, easy pat, yep, that's what we've got, so we really need the other boards to step up, or yes, we can help out answer.
I think if Bill were here, we'd have a more
I
accurate
bet.
number than my guess.
I bet.
But,
And that might be something that we divvy up to,
And
not necessarily him
And plus,
oh,
Newbrook,
no, central office will keep that,
posted for us, okay.
yeah.
Newbrook just got into a new 20-year agreement that's gonna, start this November. So that's gonna be tricky trying to change that over in 2 years
An agreement with whom?
with the solar company.
Oh, okay.
That's right, you heard it here first, solar field's gonna be in before the end of the year.
Well, and that's all important things that need to be as part of this report.
Yeah.
We need to know what those are so that we can plan for them.
Right,
Because
and-
not only does the maintenance, but anything else comes with it.
Well, there's no maintenance on it because that's the purpose of the lease. So we lease them the land, they give us a payment.
Right, whatever the arrangements are though, have an effect on the entire district when this board fully takes over. So we need to know that.
Yeah, $26,000 income every year.
Right, well, and that would be separate and apart from like what we're talking about with the buildings contract, that'd be sort of, in the
That's just another
contracts,
revenue that's gonna wind up coming into the
just
board.
in a contracts review or something. But, I think, I think there's also value in having this engineering study done by the same firm for all the buildings, so that they're all, they'll know what we're doing too. We're trying to consolidate this into one thing, and they're gonna look at all the same things, and they're gonna give us the same information in the same sort of way, and you'll have essentially the same sets of eyes looking at it, so you won't get one guy saying, that's fine, when another guy would have been like, oh, no, it's not so good. I think it's a good idea. I'm not sure if it needs a motion, or just a sort of, the board agrees and we ask Bill to please work on it. I can
I'll make a
do it either
motion.
way.
Then we can vote on
Okay,
it. That we ask,
Go on record.
yeah,
sure.
for a engineering audit of all the buildings.
Second.
All right. Any more discussion on that? All right. All in favor of asking Bill to work with the other boards to get an engineering audit done on all the buildings, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Just one quick question, does that have to go out to bid?
No, it only has to go out to bid if it's over 15,000. And so if each board is doing it separately, we wouldn't be over 15,000.
Okay.
Okay, so on to policies where we were, where we did all our amending and correcting. So, do you wanna, I mean, last time we
Sure.
warned for adoption, policies A1,
I got this.
B1, all right, you go ahead.
I got this, you ready?
All right,
When you say the policy number, can you also say the title of the policy?
Sure.
Because some of them came with numbers and some of them did not.
these are the ones that we warned for adoption last month.
Okay.
I know, I just for
Okay.
So I
clarity's
would
sake.
like to make a motion,
You only need numbers, Peter.
okay, for A1, which is board member conflict, B2,
B1,
oh, sorry, B1, substitute teachers, B2, volunteers and work-study students, B3, alcohol and drug-free workplace, B4, drug and alcohol testing for transportation employees, B5, employee harassment from drinking too much while driving the bus now. B6,
Hold it, please.
you got it?
B5?
are you trying to put the names in?
Yeah,
Just put the numbers.
well, I am, but
All right, B5 is employee harassment,
employee harassment,
yes.
got it?
B6 is health insurance, Potability and Accountability Act, otherwise known as HEPA. B7, tobacco prohibition. Oh, I'm just gonna say tobacco policy. C1, education records. C2, student alcohol and drugs. C3, transportation. C5, firearms. C6 is participation of home study students. And C7, student attendance.
And for the record, are those all required, or are those?
These are all required policies. Every policy that I give you is required until further notice,
And that's required by the state,
required by the state.
meaning we
yes.
cannot amend anything on those?
Right.
Okay,
So
do we
my
have a second?
motion, okay, that was my motion to adopt those.
Second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay, thanks. All right, any discussion on those policies?
They're all the same as what we adopted in our own boards, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor of Ken's motion to adopt policies A1 through C7? I won't list them all. Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we have those policies now.
Okay, I'd like to make another motion
All right.
to warn. This is where the corrections come in.
Right.
Okay. C8, pupil privacy rights. C9, Federal Child Nutrition Act wellness policy. C10, which was the one that you had that wasn't numbered,
Thank you.
was policy on prevention of harassment, hazing, and bullying of students. It's the same one, I got two of them there. D1, proficiency-based,
It's supposed to be D3.
huh?
It's supposed to be D3 and D4.
You have D3 and D4 there?
Yeah. That's what was in the motion last.
And
month.
that, and
This is last month's agenda.
I think she got those wrong. Because we're after C10, it should be D1 and D2, which is proficiency-based graduation requirements, and D2, which is grade advancement, retention, promotion, and acceleration of students.
Those are both required too?
Yes.
Okay.
So those are the ones that we're supposed to warn tonight. The ones that we have to look over are D3, D4 for next month.
We warned D3 and D4, or we said we would warn D3 and D4 tonight. I'm not sure, since we didn't, that we should warn them.
But those are the ones we looked over last month, that's why they were.
Right. But we looked at D3 and
She
D4,
just,
right?
what she did was when she redid these, we changed those numbers. It should be in last month's minutes.
This is last month's minutes.
Here are the minutes from last month. Do you need to see those?
We have them.
Okay, so that's what you, okay, so here's what we're gonna do then.
These are them, right?
Then we're just gonna go out of order, so forget D1, D2. And we'll do D3, which should be in your packet then, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have the right minutes?
Looks like they're the same.
Okay. D3, which is responsible computer, network, and internet use. And D4, which is Title I, comparable policy.
And D3 is required and D4 is
Everyone
recommend.
I'm giving you this week and next week are all the required
Okay,
policies.
let's get a second before we discuss it. Is there a second? Drew?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion is to warn for adoption C8, C9, C10, D3, and D4, which are all required policies, correct? And those
Not D1
Right.
and D2 then.
No,
No,
not yet.
Okay.
That was what we had discussed at the last night's meeting, that we would get the emailed packet. We've all had it. We've had a chance to look at them. They're required policies. We warn them this month, and then next month we actually adopt those policies and they become policy after being warned for a month. That gives, the month is for public comment if someone were to take exception to one of those policies. Or, anybody else who would take exception to them. That's how the process works. We warn those and then next month we adopt them.
right.
Any questions about any of those?
So D1 and D2, we will do the following. That's what you're saying.
Right. I'll just do those two out of order because apparently there was a mix-up when they,
Well, now your next motion should be that D1, D2, D6, E1, and F1 get reviewed for next month.
right. Well, that I don't make a motion on, I just ask the
Right,
board to look them over.
right. Okay, so, all in favor of warning for adoption, policies C8, C9, C10, D3, and D4, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it.
Okay, so all those are required, these are the last of the required policies as of this date. Who knows what the state's gonna come up with by next meeting. Okay, but all these are already in all of our schools. Each board has adopted them in each building so far. So I would like you guys to look at, and we will have Meg send them out to you, which is D1, D2, D5, D6, E1, and F1.
All right. So now those will be, we'll warn those at the next meeting and then
Right.
adopt them in the November meeting. Okay.
I missed the next to the last one. You said
E1.
D5, D6,
E1, then F1.
E1, and F1.
D5 and 6 and not B5 and 6?
D,
D.
as in David.
Got it.
And my apologies for being out of order, so to speak.
All right. That's pretty good order for policy.
Did anything happen to D1 and D2?
They're warned.
Their homework for the board to review for next meeting, which they will be warned, or possibly warned.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else we have to do tonight? I just noticed we keep going back to the minutes from last month and nowhere on here does it say approved minutes from last month. I think we can probably throw that in under other.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
I'll second that motion since they are such a great reference to tonight's meeting.
Any discussion on those minutes? All right, all in favor of approving the Monday, August 21st minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion still carries. Thank you.
Who seconded?
I'm sorry,
Who seconded?
Ken?
I did.
Ken. Okay, anything else? Any other pieces we have to come up with? Items for next month? Things we need to bug Bill about? We don't have another building committee meeting, do we, scheduled? Okay.
We need more information. Hopefully by the time we have audit information, we can have a meaningful discussion.
Okay.
Would it be
Okay.
helpful when we're asking the other boards to give them a timeline, like, it would be if possible, we would like it by X date, like, what would be reasonable to ask? Having deadlines, I always find is really helpful.
I'd like to think we could have it so that the committee could look over it and present at the November meeting.
That'd be nice. I'm not sure what the timeline for getting the Leland and Gray one is. I know they're coming in, I know it's.
That timeline would fit with the Leland and Grays.
Yeah, I think they're gonna get that in early November, so it would work. Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Just one question I have. Retreat next week, right?
Yes.
We attend, we do not vote, right? From this board?
Oh, this board
Right.
does not have a voting,
That's
does not
what
have
I-
voting representation on the
Yeah.
WCSU board yet. But you're welcome to attend, 5 o'clock at Mount Snow. Our next meeting is October 16th.
I will definitely be late for that meeting. Sit in your
Okay.
good seat.
Okay. Anything else, folks? One last motion.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, let's get out of here. Thank you, everyone.